All right, everyone. So here's the setup for the readings this week. Imagine that you have this best friend that just inherited a bunch of money. So that's good news, right? And then imagine this person wants to make a donation and they just love the opera for some reason. That's their favorite thing. They want to make a big gift and renovate the town's opera house. And they're asking you, as their best friend and their advisor, if that's a great opportunity for them or not. Well, as they're about to make this gift, you just learn that your town's water supply has too much arsenic in it. Just a made up scenario here, but that's not good. And there's organizations in town that are making a big push to fight for clean water supply. So you are advising your friend, and there's these two very different options, right? And the person is stewing over, well, they really love the opera, that's their passion, but there's this other need. So as this person's advisor, what are you going to do? Are you going to follow the donor's lead? And that's called the donor centric model of philanthropy and say, well, this is what you're most passionate about. So give to the opera house. Or do you have a conversation with this friend about how the money might better be used to fight for life and death needs like clean water? Obviously, fake scenario, but at this time in the history of fundraising and philanthropy, there's a very lively debate as to whether the donor centric model, which is the way most of us learn fundraising, really does measure up to the really important needs of today. And there's an alternative model called community centric fundraising that says we need to look really carefully about fundraising for causes that support social justice or that work to benefit the people who are worst off in society. So, if we're being community centered, then really it would make more sense to look closely at funding the water need in the community. So, this type of conversation lies at the heart of the ethics of fundraising. And we won't cover in too much depth, but it also strikes at the heart of some central conflicts in political philosophy. Okay, do we have a universal right to something like clean water? If so, is it really for private philanthropy to fix the problem, or is that really the job of our government? So, if water is a public good, then maybe the donor could support the opera, right? Because the government's going to take care of it. But in most societies, the government just doesn't or can't do everything, and so then we might want to think really seriously about what the role of philanthropy ought to be. So, I hope you're still with me because we have one more loop to travel this week. And really, there's no right answer to these questions. There's no one fact of the matter, okay? There's just different arguments, and maybe some arguments may be stronger and maybe some weaker. But this makes this kind of a dilemma, an adaptive challenge, okay? Remember that phrase. An adaptive challenge is a question that you solve most often like applied to the workplace that doesn't have a factual answer or a technical answer. An example of a technical answer is when you got an injury and you go to the doctor and it's pretty straightforward and you get some stitches. That's a technical solution, the stitches, right? And the doctor knew what to do and they treated you the right way. So what the authors here that you will be reading are thinking about is that what we need to do as leaders in the workplace, in fundraising and philanthropy, in the nonprofit world, is not to just go ahead and solve a bunch of technical challenges or patch people up, but to solve an adaptive challenge. So I want you to think about that. It can be very freeing to switch your mindset and realize that all the kinds of things you may be working on in your job, most of them are really adaptive challenges. They're things that don't have one right answer. They're things you have to feel your way through. Okay. And the real crux is as you work in your jobs, you will be trying to figure out when are there technical problems that just have easy solutions and when are there adaptive um, challenges that you need to meet. So, what's one big adaptive challenge? Well, the pandemic of the past few years. Many of us had to make changes in the way we were doing business, and for some of you, in the way you were going to school. And you had to adapt. Your institutions had to adapt, and then there was no one right way or one solution to do things. But we all had many challenges. So think about what kind of adaptive challenges you had to solve in the past few years. And Again, the key in the business place is deciding what are those kinds of questions that have easy, straightforward answers. What are the ones that you are going to need to think creatively about? If you find yourself spinning your wheels after pondering something, it might be a sign that you're looking at an adaptive challenge. And you're being called as a leader to take in all the evidence and information you can, and really just to make the best decision because there's no one answer. So I'll leave you with that thought. So go for it. Think through the readings. Let me know if you have any questions, and enjoy the week. And we will pick back up. I will be responding to your discussion posts and your work throughout the week. So we'll talk to you in another week.